Well, good morning. It's Friday morning. Thanks for joining. It's the end of a week before the weekend, if we could say it that way. And many are probably looking forward to a weekend and some time away, others working through the weekend. But thanks for joining. We're looking today, our last of one another's. We're going to start off in Romans 15:4, though it doesn't say one another here in part way, but then we're going to go Colossians 3:6. But Romans 15:4, and whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning. Our word today is admonishing. And so that word there gives us the same idea for our learning, our admonishment, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. So we're looking at admonishing, to counsel against wrong practice, to direct, to advise is the idea of admonishing. And that would be, we would find in Colossians in chapter number 3. So Paul writing to the Romans says, that which was written before was written for our learning, for our admonishment, that we can look at. And what's the phrase? If we don't learn from history, we're prone to or doomed to repeat it, right? So we have a tendency of repeating ourselves in so many different ways. You look at the book of Judges in Israel, kept repeating the same process. They served God. And eventually they got complacent and they looked at idols to serve the idols, and God chastened them, sent them captivity. They prayed, God delivered. And they served the Lord for a while, a generation or two. And in the same process, just kept repeating over and over and over again. And each time that process of chastening, of him admonishing, took longer and longer before God would deliver it. So Colossians chapter number 3 and verse number 16, if I can read that for you. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom, teaching and, here it is, admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord. So let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. Not sparingly, but overflowing almost endlessly. Teaching and admonishing one another, psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. So we have the responsibility with, again, a Christ-like attitude, a biblical response, that we to admonish one another, to counsel against wrong practices. Now, what do? We use the Word of God, which is the authority upon which each believer should be. Jesus, talking in John 17, praying to his Father, says, sanctify them through thy word is truth. And so we need a foundation. We need something that we can have our standing upon, which is consistent. And that's the Word of God, right? So if we go by our own feelings, if we go by our own thinking, that can be so fluid. But the Word of God is not fluid. It is consistent. So we need to admonish one another. We need to admonish and counsel against wrong practices. So maybe we see a fellow believer behaving poorly. Now, Paul did that with the church in Corinth. There was a gentleman who was having an affair, and he was admonished by the church and so on, and being immoral. And so they had to take the proper measures biblically. And so what they were doing, they were admonishing him. And of course, we find that not everyone responds in a way that's biblical, in a way that they want, because it can hurt our pride. We don't like to be corrected. We like to know that whatever we do, it's okay to do, and we've certainly seen that in our society, that everybody wants to do whatever they want to do, and we don't want to be told that what we're doing is not right and so on, because we want everything, as we find in Judges, every man did that which was right in his own eyes. And so what did they not want? They did not like the prophets to come along and to admonish them, hey, the idol worship that they were doing was wrong. So we have things in our lives that we, as a body of believers, we are encouraged with a proper biblical Christ-like love to admonish one another for the benefit of the other person, not for our own glory, but in humility. And so we need to encourage, we need to comfort and admonish one another so that we can be a people, the bride of Christ that is pure. And so we need to admonish, we need to direct, we need to advise. And sometimes we need that. Everybody needs that from time to time. But what's the end goal? Oh, so that Christ is glorified, Christ is magnified in all that we do and say. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great day, have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday morning.